Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Rabbi Says here on The Moral Edge. I'm your host, Rabbi Ari Enkin, and today, continuing in our A to Z series of different topics in Judaism based on the alphabet, we find ourselves this week on E, and we'll be discussing eating and exercise and entertainment. So we'll begin, like I said, with the eating, and of course, Michael is here as
to cause trouble,
to ask the right questions at the wrong time, and the wrong questions at the right time. You could edit that out if you want. But we're going to begin with eating. Now, to do an episode on eating is so easy. I mean, Jews and food, there's nothing more basic than that. Whether you're Orthodox or conservative or Reform or anything, Jews and food go together. So eating and Judaism and food, we're going to have a good time now, Michael. We're going to have a good time in this. And where do we begin?
Where's the food? I don't see any.
I know we
have. You didn't bring anything with you?
The Moral Edge Studios, folks. No food in the Moral. This would never become a kiddush club.
That was your job to bring the food.
We could never get a kiddush going in this place with no food. You know, every Jewish organization, there's food. Every meeting, gathering, food, whatever it is, food. That's how you get Jews out. You got to give them food. You feed the Jewish stomach, they're going to come. Feed them and they will come. In Judaism, eating is a very central part of being Jewish, central part of life, whether it's weekday eating habits and practices to the elaborate Shabbat meals. We got a lot to talk about on eating. Now, we have to remember, first of all, that food is from God. That's number one. You have to know that food is a divine gift. And in fact, we say it in our Shema daily. We say the Shema 2, 3, 4 times a day. Ve'asafta deganecha ve'tiroshecha v'itzarecha. God gives the grain and the wine and the oil. We ask God for rain. We ask God for crops. And back then we were more agricultural. But still, we got to thank God for all the food that comes our way. We have to remember that it's always from God. And that's why in Judaism, we have to make a blessing before we eat and after we eat to remember that everything comes from God. The Torah goes over and over again as God is a provider of sustenance, of crops, of livestock, healthy crops, first fruits. The list goes on and on about sacrifices and thanksgiving based on what God gives us to eat and to live off of. And the rabbis, like I said, enacted this idea to make a blessing not only after meals, but before as well. And why do I emphasize this? Important point I want to make now, which is why I emphasize this idea of blessings both before and after meals. And that is the only blessing in the Torah, the only prayer in the entire Torah that the Torah itself tells us to recite is a blessing after meals. Can you imagine? In all of Judaism, the 3 times a day, the Yom Kippur, the Shabbat, all those prayers and prayer times is all from the rabbis. I'm not knocking it. That's very important. As Orthodox Jews, we believe everything from the rabbis is, hallowed just like from the Torah, virtually. But it is noteworthy that the only prayer the Torah itself requires us to recite is grace after meals, the Birkat HaMazon.
We call it benching, right?
Benching in Yiddish, the Ashkenazim call it benching. The Sephardim probably call it more Birkat HaMazon, the traditional, the wording. But that is the only prayer the Torah actually requires us to recite. And here's something really cool that many viewers might not have realized. In Jewish law, a meal is defined as a bread eating session. If you didn't have bread at your eating session, you did not have a meal. You had a snack. So let's take the typical all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet restaurant. An endless rice. 10 types of rice.
I always noted you can never get bread at a Chinese restaurant. Why is that?
Exactly. And that's where I'm headed.
You want to start the meal. You want to wash your hands, right? We start meals with bread. When you make a blessing on the bread, then it covers everything. You don't have to make individual blessings. But you can never find a piece of bread in a Chinese restaurant.
That's
you got to bring one in your pocket or something. I don't know.
They say that the rice is enough carbohydrates for the Chinese. They didn't need bread on top of that. You go to a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet. You have 10 types of rice, 10 types of chicken, 10 types of meat. The rolls, egg rolls, and this roll and that roll. You don't walk out hungry. But in Jewish law, you only had a snack. And in fact, this requirement that I mentioned a moment ago to recite a prayer after meals only applies after meals. According to Torah law, if you had a snack, you don't truly have to recite a blessing after eating your snack. The rabbis, as I mentioned, enacted that we make a blessing before all food and after all food.
I'm getting very hungry, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Where's the Chinese food? I haven't had that in a long time.
I heard
have
more
a lot of that in Israel, do they?
Isn't more or less taking out all the staff for a celebratory dinner one of these days?
Is there a Chinese restaurant in Israel?
I'll tell you, I'm out of the Chinese restaurant scene for quite a while already. There definitely are. All you could eat buffets in Chinese. I don't know. I don't know of any. Probably not, because they know the Jews will put them out of business.
So we'll have to take the whole Moral Edge staff to New York. We'll fly them out.
Exactly.
Go to a nice Moshe Peking. Is that still around in New York City?
Borough Park. Borough Park has a few. I think all you could eat Chinese.
Okay.
Now, how can we talk about food and eating without talking about kosher? Kosher, the Jewish dietary code. And obviously, kosher is very important. A Jew cannot eat non-kosher. It's not hard to keep kosher, but you can't eat.
Now, wait
anything.
a second. Don't use up. That's for the K.
Oh, it's true. I got to be careful.
Don't use up the K.
Yeah.
Keep it on eating.
Yeah.
Leave kosher to the side.
EFGHIJK. It's going to be a good 6-7 weeks. Maybe readers might forget what I say right now. Viewers. Maybe the viewers might forget what I say right now. But briefly, we can't eat certain animals. We can't mix milk and meat. How's that? That's it. Just scratch the surface.
Basic.
Right. And when we get to the K's, we will go into kosher in great detail. But right now, let's just summarize it. As Jews can't eat certain animals. They can only eat animals that have the split hooves and they chew their cud. Fish have to have fins and scales. So shark and whale is out, but salmon and tuna is in. And we don't mix milk and meat. Happens to be something the Torah tells us 3 times, not once, not twice, 3 times. Don't mix milk and meat. So we have, those are the basic kosher laws. And once you have a meat meal, you can't have dairy products for 6 hours, according to most customs. Others wait 3 hours, but most Ashkenazi Jews wait 6 hours. And why do you think, Michael, God gave us the rules of kosher? Why do you think, just really off the cuff, this is just, what would your emotions say? Why is God telling us?
I would say because there's something unique about kosher food that is not just physically, perhaps it's physically healthy, or I'm not really sure, but it's spiritually healthy. Meaning that, from what I understand, the animals that we're not allowed to eat are animals of prey, animals that have certain cruelty to them. The animals that we are allowed to eat are animals that have characteristics that are more in line with doing kindness and good character traits, and that somehow that becomes part of us. We are what we eat, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of the more spiritual interpretations. That's very much accurate and correct. But I want to suggest that it's also teaching us self-control. The laws of kosher, you spoke about a very spiritual interpretation, how the spirit and the mannerisms of the animals could affect us. I like that very much. It's a very authoritative teaching. But also self-control. Not everything is permitted to us. You can't drive as fast as you want on every road. Everything is in life. Where there's self-control, we learn mastery over impulse. That's the benefit of self-control. Many people suggest that the kosher laws, and I'll stop here after this kosher because I want to go into the K's. But one more thing, I want to just shake away immediately for our viewers this belief that the kosher laws are given for health reasons. And I'm going to prove to viewers right now that simply can't be possible. Because as we know, God loves all his creations. God loves all mankind. All mankind who do good have a share in the world to come. They all go to heaven. Many religions believe if you don't become like them, you're going to hell, right? Christianity says you don't accept this and believe in that, you're going to hell. Islam says you don't accept this or believe in that, you're going to hell. Judaism says, don't be Jewish. Just be a good person, okay? Worship God, be a good person. You're going to heaven. You don't got to be Jewish. Now, that being said, God loves all his creations who are good. If kosher was for health reasons and non-kosher food could hurt you, do you think God wants the non-Jewish world to eat non-kosher food and die? Of course not. If pork, that's the most common belief, that pork, the ban on eating pig is due to some kind of health consideration. If that would be true, God would have also given the non-Jewish rule, the non-Jewish world, the rule of not eating bacon, not eating pork products. Because
Muslims don't eat that, right?
That's their own initiative.
That's
their own initiative. Yeah, but God did not tell. We believe that God did not tell the whole non-Jewish world not to eat pork. Mm-hmm. If pork was dangerous, we believe that God would have indeed told the whole world to avoid pork, because God doesn't want good non-Jews eating pork and dropping dead. If that would indeed be a health consideration. So obviously the kosher laws, and there's other proofs, but I won't go into it right now, that the kosher laws were not given for any health considerations. They are a spiritual diet, as you very well put a moment ago. Now, although we celebrate food as Jews, we also are cautioned against excess. Obesity is a sin.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Self-control For Jews, among food, whoa, that's three-pronged difficulty, okay? Three-pronged difficulty. But make no mistake, the rabbis discuss in great detail, and I have a bunch of nice inspirational quotes coming in a moment, about the importance of controlled eating, not going to excess. Obesity is a very serious problem in Jewish law. I mean, most of the time, people are obese, they can't help themselves. And God understands that. But as a general rule, allowing yourself to get so overweight and overeating, knowingly overeating, is a big sin. Make no mistake, it's a sin. It's called, we have a term for that, in fact, in Jewish law. It's called achila gasa. Achila gasa means eating too much where you should have stopped ages ago. That's bad. So enjoy food, but everything in moderation, as I mentioned.
In fact, just on that point, with this achila gasa, eating to the when you're not, it's not satisfying you anymore because you're overeating. There's a commandment, as we all know, Jews eat matzah on Pesach, right? If you're so full by the time you're eating the matzah that it's considered an achila gasa, an overeating where you won't get any enjoyment at all, it's considered as if you didn't even fulfill the commandment of eating matzah.
That's correct.
That's not called eating.
That's very correct. And in fact, I'll share with you another teacher on that, and another teaching on the same idea that many people don't realize. Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, before the fast, unfortunately, we gorge. Is that the word? Gorge ourselves. We eat too much. By all accounts, we eat too much. Sometimes we're so full, you literally can't move. Literally can't make it.
It is a mitzvah, just like it's a mitzvah to fast on Yom Kippur. It's a mitzvah to eat the day before Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
So we take that mitzvah very seriously.
That's true. It's a beloved mitzvah. We love doing it, but even that cannot be to excess. Now, as you mentioned correctly, that if a person is so full with the Passover Seder, when they eat that final portion of matzah, they just can't stand it. It's as if they didn't eat it. So too on Yom Kippur. The person is busting as Yom Kippur begins at 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night. And they eat a big piece of cake at 10 p.m. at night on Yom Kippur night, but they're so busting, they don't even enjoy it. It's as if they didn't eat. They're
Interesting.
Yeah. So Jewish law.
Can I try that?
No, don't try that at home. But Jewish law does have, as you correctly mentioned, that guidelines and borders as to what is defined as eating and what is not defined as eating. So it's very important. Maimonides, the Rambam Maimonides deals with this at great length, and I have a bunch of very inspirational quotes I'll share with our viewers momentarily. But now, moving on in the world of eating and food in Judaism, I think we can go to Shabbat now. And Shabbat is time for elaborate meals. In moderation. Even on Shabbat, it's not permitted to eat everything. You know, there's this widespread misconception that on Shabbat, calories don't count, or you're supposed to eat more and more. It actually doesn't say that anywhere. It says you should eat special foods on Shabbat.
What it says is that any money you spend for a beautiful Shabbat meal, that's not going to go against you. I mean, you're going to get that money back. That's not money lost. But people might have taken that to the extreme to mean that if you overeat, it's also not going to cause you any issues, and that's not true.
You're right. That might be a very crooked interpretation of an interpretation. Yeah. Very good. It's a very famous teaching. I want to just elaborate on that beautiful teaching you just shared right now. It's from the Talmud and Tractate Beitzah. And the Talmud tells us in Beitzah, I think it's page 15, that God decides a person's income for the entire year on Rosh Hashanah, except what he spends for the Shabbat meals and to honor Shabbat. And that money is not included. So you can spend away in honor of Shabbat and it won't be deducted for the money that you're going to get that year. Actually, the Talmud goes on and says any mitzvah is included. Any mitzvah, not just Shabbat, but that's the one emphasized, mentioned by name. But really, any mitzvah is not counted in your yearly allotment of salary. Wow. Yeah, so keep that in mind.
Change your life when you think about it.
Yeah.
Should you buy a beautiful 4 species, how much money to spend on certain mitzvahs, on certain commandments. And if you're spending it for the right thing, it's not going to go. That's
what our sages teach us. But back to the Shabbat meals. So people think there's a mitzvah to eat a lot on Shabbat. No, it's not true. It's a mitzvah to eat different foods, your favorite foods, higher quality foods. Okay. At least 2 cooked dishes. See, in the olden days, they didn't always have cooked dishes at meals. And if they did, it was 1 cooked dish. But, a peanut butter and jam sandwich is not a cooked dish. It's a lunch on the run for many, many people. Shabbat should be different. So we want elaborate meals and we want at least 2 cooked dishes. We want fancy foods, high quality foods. But even then, you get the mitzvah of just having an olive-sized portion of these foods. So you don't have to have a massive piece of kugel to get the mitzvah of eating kugel on Shabbat. You just have to have what's called a kazayas, a minimal amount. Once you've tasted it, enjoyed it, swallowed it, next. But of course, I'm guilty of this as well, overeating, and that one piece of kugel is crying your name and he wants you to finish it because he's going to be out in the cold.
Well, look, we're not in a rush also. Like during the week, we're eating on the run. We're
Exactly.
we're always moving, doing something. On Shabbat, we're sitting together with the family. We have all the time in the world.
Exactly.
So what else is there to do besides talk, schmooze, and eat?
Exactly. And the Shabbat meals, precisely that, is meant to bring families closer together. Speaking from a personal perspective, I literally, without exaggeration, I probably don't eat a single meal with my family 6 days a week. Just my schedule doesn't allow it. It's just, and the kids don't eat with the kids, and the wife and everyone, we're on such weird schedules. The whole family has a different schedule. So we really, truly only come together once a week. Friday night, Shabbat lunch, even the third meal of Shabbat, we don't even get together all the time. But the first 2 meals of Shabbat, we get together. Like you said, there's a lot of time, nowhere to go, nothing to do, only to bond and to talk about Torah, talk about God, talk about the weekly Torah portion is very common. And that's what a Shabbat meal is meant to do. Very festive atmosphere. A nice wine is encouraged and commendable for the Shabbat meals. Judaism wants us to enjoy Shabbat from even a physical, materialistic perspective. Shabbat is very unique that it's not just the spiritual, which is very important as well. As you know, we have elaborate synagogue services, Shabbat morning, even Friday night. But also, God wants us to take a moment, a time of the week to enjoy ourselves, indulge a little bit with that fine wine and that nicer meat and that better kugel.
And we are very happy to do so.
Yeah. Also Shabbat gives us the opportunity to do a very important Jewish mitzvah, and that's having guests. Having guests in Judaism is very, very important. It's one of the first things we learned from our patriarch, our forefather Abraham, who was very well known as one who would always welcome guests into his home. And that's to be encouraged. And Shabbat is often an opportunity for that. During the week, everyone's rushing. No one has time to sit with a guest and to feed a guest, for better or for worse. But Shabbat, we have that time. We have that opportunity. And Shabbat is meant for us to take advantage of such opportunities, like having the guest, like bonding with the family, like having that elaborate meal that we don't always have. And in fact, on the holidays, we just came out of Jewish holidays, the Shavuot holiday. But holidays, even more so, we're supposed to indulge in delicacies at our meals. But once again, within moderation, that's what's very, very important. Another topic not related to the Shabbat and holiday meals is that foods have symbolism in Judaism. Foods share history. Foods tell stories in Judaism. Okay. A lot of examples of this.
I'd like to hear.
Oh, how about the matzah that you mentioned earlier?
Okay.
Eating matzah, you're eating history. The matzah is meant to recall the slavery of Egypt, the redemption of God, the splitting of the seas, the 10 plagues, up to the arrival in the land of Israel by the Jewish people 40 years later. You're eating history. That's what matzah is meant to represent and to have us recall. Here's another one for you that many people don't realize. Why did Jews eat gefilte fish on Shabbat? Yeah, many people don't realize. People think it was created out of cultural considerations, but it wasn't created out of cultural considerations. It was created out of halachic considerations. It's because of Jewish law we eat gefilte fish on Shabbat. How so?
Okay. Yeah.
How so? So fish is a very important part of a Shabbat meal. That's worth emphasizing on its own. Fish in Hebrew is dag, and dag, the Hebrew letters Dalet and Gimel, equal 7. The 7th day, Shabbat, is a day for dag. There's other symbolisms as well. A lot of symbolism, by the way, for eating fish on Shabbat. But fish often has bones, and you got to take out the bones to eat your fish. But Judaism says, the law is that on Shabbat, you're not allowed to separate the bad from the good. You can separate the good from the bad, but you can't take the bad from the good. Bones are bad. You don't want them. So people would be tempted or accidentally transgress the prohibition of taking away the bad and leaving the good. Came along the Jewish bubbies of yesteryear and said, if we make gefilte fish, there's no bones. You could eat fish without a problem of violating Jewish law. And there are lots and lots of examples.
That's interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah, I got to teach Michael something on our show. It was all worth it.
Well, what is gefilte fish anyway? It's like chopped. Yeah. What goes in there? Carp and I don't know.
Okay, very good. Let's have a history class.
They used to let them swim in their bathtubs, right? And then chop them up or something.
So the word gefilte in Yiddish means to stuff. And the olden days, the way gefilte fish was first prepared and served is they would take this concoction paste of chopped fish, and they'd stuff the fish from whence it came. The fish that it came from, and they would serve the table with a nice fish, but you just peel back that layer, that skin, and you have the gefilte fish. Over time, for some reason, serving gefilte fish in the fish with the fish disappeared, and just those fish balls or squares or however it's served in your home.
With carrots, by the way.
Yeah, no one's sure where the carrots came from. I think they used to go fishing and put a carrot on the wheel there to get the fish to come. My kids have a pet gefilte fish at home also. Yeah, we have swimming gefilte fish at home. Yeah. It's a species not many people know about, the gefilte fish. So once again, foods do tell stories in Judaism. We mentioned the matzah. We mentioned the gefilte fish considerations of Jewish law. How about Rosh Hashanah? Dip the apple in the honey. Everything's with honey. Because Rosh Hashanah, we're supposed to do things that symbolize having a sweet year. So honey is the emphasis on the Rosh Hashanah meals. In fact,
the simanim, all the signs that before we start the meal,
exactly.
We eat lots of symbolic foods, each with a blessing for the new year.
Very good. In addition to the apple and the honey and the bread and the honey, that's right. We have a whole slew of symbolic foods at the start of Rosh Hashanah, which is said to be a good omen for a good year. And there's all kinds of foods, and why they're symbolic is for another episode. Sometimes it's the name, sometimes it's their taste, sometimes it's where they come from. But all these foods that symbolize something good are eaten at Rosh Hashanah as well. So you see that we have the omen connection, the good luck connection to our foods. And the list goes on and on and on, that foods we eat for all kinds of symbolic, historical, or storytelling purposes.
You didn't mention cholent. I thought that was going to come out.
Sure. We'll talk about cholent. Cholent is also a dish that was made for two reasons, two considerations. One is halacha consideration.
Well, first of all, tell everybody, what is cholent?
What is cholent?
Those that don't know.
So cholent is this stew that all Jews, Sephardi, Ashkenazi, the Yemenites, maybe even the Ethiopians have some kind of stew. But yeah, cholent is a stew. And cholent is usually a meat stew that has potatoes and onions and beans of all kinds. And the highlight for me, at least, is the meat. The very high quality, soft, tender, yummy, melt in your mouth, come off the bone meat, the great meat. And the reason we eat cholent, by the way, what does the word cholent mean? So common belief is the word cholent comes from the French chaud cholent, chaud. And in French, I speak French, I'm Canadian. Chaud means hot, and lent means slowly. And cholent got that name because it's a dish that's made and served hot, but it cooks very, very slowly. See, what we do for this cholent with the potatoes and the beans and the meat and all the other things I mentioned a moment ago, kishka, we'll get into kishka later on, but all these things that Ashkenazim put in the cholent, what we do is we make the cholent raw moments before Shabbat begins, and we put it on a very low flame. So it literally takes 10, 12 hours for the cholent to be ready, which times it well for the Shabbat lunch meal. So that's why it's called cholent, chaud lent. It's a hot dish that takes it cooks very slowly. And why we eat cholent is for two reasons. Primarily one reason. Let me talk about the main reason. There was a belief amongst the heretics of Judaism that the Torah does not allow us to eat hot food on Shabbat. There was an interpretation, completely invalid, that the ban on cooking on Shabbat, which is true, cooking on Shabbat is a very serious transgression, in fact. But there was a mistaken belief that the ban on cooking on Shabbat also includes any form of eating cooked foods, even if the cooking was done before Shabbat. So in order to prove them wrong, we specifically have hot, freshly cooked foods on Shabbat. So that's a very interesting piece of history. That's how cholent basically evolved. I mean, it also allows us to have hot food where cooking is otherwise not possible. And having hot food is considered to be, a prestigious meal, a prestigious dish. So that's the cholent.
Cholent also means, to a lot of people, a mixture of just everything, because everybody's recipe is different.
That's
so if
right.
you're making a cholent of something, you're just throwing lots of things together, and you make a big cholent.
Yeah, it's become a vernacular word.
Yeah,
just
like
when you mix up things together, it's called a cholent of things. Right. Yeah, and the kugel we eat, potato kugel or other kinds of noodle kugels, represents the manna that fell from heaven for 40 years.
How is that?
So how is that? That's very interesting. It's a bit creative, the interpretation, why kugel represents the manna. But just so viewers should know, the manna is the food that came from heaven. Every morning, God would send this bread type of food to everyone. And on Fridays, by the way, he would send a double portion. God sent a double portion to the Jewish people because you're not allowed to gather on Shabbat. So in order to ensure the Jewish people had food for Shabbat, he sent them a double portion on Friday, which is why we have 2 breads at the start of every Shabbat meal. Now you know why. Every Shabbat meal, whether you have 1 meal on Shabbat or 15 meals on Shabbat, every meal must begin with 2 whole loaves to remember the double portion of man or manna, however you want to pronounce it, that came on Fridays. But back to the kugel. How does kugel represent the manna? Because the manna we are told would come delivered in a box, a type of box, a box of dew, D-E-W, dew, a bit of dew on top, a bit of dew on the bottom, and that would protect the man from the worms and from any other, the creatures that might eat the man. So the kugel is said to be a filling type of food. In fact, the original kugels were probably a filling, likely a meat filling of some sort. Now it's not really a filling, it's just pure potato or pure noodles. But they say that the burnt crisps on the top and bottom represent the dew that protected the manna when it fell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never knew that one either.
Yeah. All the Shabbat foods really do have some kind of symbolic meaning, really. We'll save that for the S for the Shabbat meal class, perhaps. Let's take a break from talking about eating and let's talk about fasting. The opposite. That's a dreaded word. Don't tell a Jew.
Wait a second. That's F. F is next week.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. But it's connected. It's connected to eating. But my point is, and maybe I will leave it, but the point is that, although Judaism encourages eating and enjoyment, but sometimes they have to fast to step back, to remember certain tragedies. Why we fast to recall the tragedies that befell Jerusalem, and some other reasons we fast as well. Some people fast on a yard site on the day of death of a parent. The firstborns officially fast before Passover. There's all kinds of fasts.
Bad dreams. That was
right. We had an episode on that about the bad dreams. That was a fast. They used to fast for having a bad dream. We don't do that anymore. But the idea is that we spoke about self-control earlier. So just like eating has to be with self-control, but sometimes there's total withdrawal from eating. But and these are not just fast days that were made up. They were given to us by the prophets of Israel. So something maybe to leave for another time. But again, not eating is also Jewish. Let me share with our viewers some of the nicest teachings that I found on eating. The Talmud says, a meal that you enjoy, keep it brief. Beautiful Talmudic teaching that emphasizes what I mentioned earlier, moderation, don't overeat, okay? Don't speak while eating, considered to be dangerous and also bad manners. Speaking while eating is so bad from a Jewish perspective that if you're eating and you hear a blessing, you don't have to respond amen. You're exempt from saying amen if you have food in your mouth and you're eating. Says the famous, I forget which century, but old book, Sefer Chinuch, we should limit our pursuits after sweets and delicacies and not behave like gluttons who are forever seeking anything sweet. Rather, a person should only desire foods that are nourishing to his body and necessary for its maintenance and good health. This is what every intelligent person should have in mind when eating and drinking, not merely the pleasures of his palate. Now, that's more weekday advice. I did mention the permissibility of, indulging a little bit more on Shabbat and holidays, and that's true, and that's important, not overindulging. But during the week, we should be careful and only eat what we need to eat. We have the teaching of eating breakfast. We grew up, believing they had to have breakfast. Judaism taught that before we grew up on that. Going back 2,000 years, the Talmud says you should always eat breakfast before beginning your day. Eating breakfast makes one wise. Rabbi Nachman, the famous Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, says eating a good breakfast ensures you don't get angry during the day. Okay, maybe you know something we didn't know. He also says, Rabbi Nachman, eating properly brings one closer to God. I want to share something of that idea with you. There's a famous teaching, a requirement in Jewish law called Kiddush b'makom suda. Now, we're not going to get into this right now, but Kiddush b'makom suda is a teaching that says that whenever you recite the blessing over wine before a Shabbat meal, you must eat promptly after the blessing in order for your Kiddush to be valid. If there's too much of a gap between your blessing on the wine and your eating, your Kiddush is not valid. But on a deeper level, Kiddush b'makom suda could also be interpreted as a person's holiness is revealed when he eats. Kiddush b'makom suda. So, and I work on myself on this. I really do. I try hard. I don't always succeed. But I try that eating properly is so important. And that shows a person is close to God. He's a holy person. He's a refined person, a dignified person. Very important to try to always eat carefully and slowly. We're going to talk about exercise soon. That's an important part of meals.
That's a good segue from eating to exercise.
Let's go to exercise. Okay, we'll stop over here. Even though I've got like another 35 teachings, okay, on eating.
Next cycle.
Or maybe, viewers can email me privately if you want my list of teachings on eating. I'd be pleased to send
Wait a second. Next week is F, so we can do food also.
Yeah. Well, we covered it today.
Fasting.
Yeah, they won't come back next week if we're doing this again. Okay. We covered fasting, covered eating and food. We'll have to think of different topics for next week. But let's go to exercise, because exercise is very much connected to eating, because you can't just eat. You got to exercise. You got to use the energy. In fact, Maimonides says before you eat, you should exercise. Exercising on an empty stomach and then eating your meal is apparently very, very healthy. It makes perfect sense. I'm not a doctor or a dietitian, but your body's pumping, you exercise, you did some cardio, you did some weights, and then you put the fuel into your stomach. Your body's pumping, and the fuel gets well used, well digested, well spread out. And it can't be overemphasized how important exercise is from a Jewish law perspective. The Torah says 2-3 times, something like, "V'nishmartem me'od lenafshotechem." You must carefully guard your souls. And that's exercise. The rabbis teach us you have to exercise. Those who don't exercise might be sinning to some extent. You got to find something to move your body. Maimonides talks about this in great length. In fact, I also brought some teachings here on the exercise. And I'll share that with viewers first. Talk about I'll go to Maimonides. Let me share with you some Maimonides teachings. Maimonides says, as long as one exercises and exerts oneself and does not eat to the point of satiation, he has loose bowels and will not suffer sickness, and he will grow in strength. So that is Maimonides' tips on a well-balanced diet: exercise, exertion, don't overeat, and make sure you're eating foods that allow you to go and clean yourself out. Laxatives of some sort, very important. Another teaching of Maimonides: one who is idle, one who does not exercise, one who does not move one's bowels when needed, one who is constipated will always be full of pain, and his strength will fade away, even if he eats the proper foods and takes care of himself like the rules of medicine. Once again, the emphasis here is don't be idle. Sitting all day is not good. How much exercise is necessary? What do our sages say? Our sages say, ask the medical professionals. And if I'm not mistaken, most medical professionals say that twice a week, half an hour is all you need. The more the merrier, as they say. But everyone should put an effort, and I do too. I really do. I don't just preach. I try to practice what I preach. A minimum of half hour, twice a week of exercise.
What do you do?
What do I do? It's funny you ask that, because you wouldn't imagine what I'm going to tell you. But when I exercise, Michael, I really do brutal workouts. We're talking like it's been called commando style workouts. I might not look like I don't have the big muscles and the big body, but without exaggeration, when I exercise, I have the YouTube videos on these advanced, military calisthenics and all these videos going around, and I do them. I really do them loyally. And I'm sweating buckets afterwards, and I can't move probably for a few hours afterwards.
Really? Wow.
But when I exercise, I don't fool around. It's going to go all the way. So I do that once or twice a week.
What time of day do you do it? 4 meals, after meals?
So I always try to do it before meals, but the reality is it doesn't always work. Lately, my exercise has become Friday mornings where I don't have any classes, and after Shabbat when I've overeaten. Oh. So those are the two, what we call Yarog Val Yavor. Don't call me after Shabbat, Michael. I'm exercising for the first 45 minutes or so after Shabbat. Phones off, without exaggeration. That's going on for many years, actually, that the Saturday night workout is holy, not to be touched. But yes, if I can exercise another third or fourth time during the week, I will try to do so. I also have some weights. They talk about muscle building is also important, especially at my age, just turned 50. Want to keep young as long as possible. They say muscle building will help that, and a good cardio. So yeah, Baruch Hashem, I think I'm in shape, above average at least. I'm working out hard, and I do it, by the way, not because I want to, because I think it's a requirement. I think it's a mitzvah. It is a mitzvah. In fact, some people, before the exercise, they say these little declarations of intent. Examples, I'm sure you're familiar with the text. Hareini muchan mezuman lekayem mitzvahs aseh shel v'nishmartem me'od lenafsho seichem. In Judaism, we have very often, they're optional, but declarations of intent. Before we do a mitzvah, we declare we're doing it. And I do it and others do it. And I declare before I exercise, I am doing this for the sake of heaven, l'shem shamayim. I want to be healthy. That's what God wants me to do. Take care of my body. And I exercise. Okay. So whatever's for you. If people can't do the hard workouts that I do, walking is great. Go walk for 30, 40 minutes. Go with a lecture in your ears. Go with music in your ears. Whatever it takes to get you out, it's a mitzvah. It really, really is. I just have one or two more teachings before I go back to my main script over here. But what's a good one?
A healthy rabbi is a happy rabbi.
Everyone has to be healthy. Everyone has to be healthy. Here's one more teaching, my best teaching on exercise. So this is we mentioned this in passing a moment ago, is that don't exercise on a full stomach. Apparently it's not healthy. Our sages do that.
Wait a second. You said after Shabbat, after you've eaten quite well.
No, but not immediately when I exercise. It'll be 2-3 hours since I last ate for exercise. Okay. But yeah, you should not exercise on a full stomach. Apparently, it's not a very healthy thing to do. Okay, how about exercise on Shabbat? What do you think of that? Any thoughts?
I think it's technically allowed, but you shouldn't overexert yourself because that's not in line with the spirit of Shabbat, from what I understand.
Okay, so exercise on Shabbat is essentially forbidden.
Forbidden?
Yes. It's in its purest form, to go and intentionally exercise is actually forbidden. But there are many ways, even on Shabbat, to sneak in the exercise. So, for example, although it's true what I said, that exercise as a concept is forbidden on Shabbat.
Why is it forbidden? It's not one of the 39 categories of work.
Correct.
So where does it fall under?
Correct. Our rabbis taught us that we should not do anything, I think you mentioned in passing, that is not in the spirit of Shabbat, but also more explicitly, doing anything that knowingly causes us to sweat.
Exertion.
Exertion is forbidden on Shabbat. But that's as a concept of exercise, and that's all true. But our sages gave us some sneaky tricks on how to sneak in exercise on Shabbat without saying you're exercising.
Well, if you've got, let's say, 10 synagogues in the neighborhood, right? You got one 1 minute away, 2 minutes away, 5 minutes. You got one, 45 minutes away.
You got it.
There you go.
That's one way. Another way is
you get a mitzvah for, it's called schar halicha, right? For every step that you take
to the synagogue,
besides the exercise you're doing, you're approaching the place of prayer, and you get rewarded for that process. That's
right.
Pretty good.
That's good. But also, even without going for the sake of a mitzvah, going to the synagogue, going to hear a Torah class, but just going for a Shabbat afternoon walk is permissible. And you could kind of sneak in a little bit of a faster walk, a bit of an uphill, harder walk. So our sages allow us to sneak in exercise on Shabbat if done properly within the rules. Yeah, but you can't,
You can't like lift weights or something like that.
You can't go and take the weights. The weights are muktzah on Shabbat. There's something that can't be touched. Yeah. So I think it's made it very, very clear that the body is holy. The body is on loan to us by God. And just like we got to take care of our souls, we got to take care of our bodies too. So viewers, ladies and gentlemen, exercise is very important. Your doctor will tell you to exercise, and your rabbi will tell you to exercise.
Are you going to be sending videos out after this session?
If everyone wants to see my YouTube videos,
I'd like to see it.
You know what? I would.
I ask your wife to take her iPhone and show me.
I would like to exercise with you.
Oh my
okay.
Gosh.
I challenge you to a brutal
challenge.
Whenever you're ready, I'm going to show you an exercise. I have more beginner ones, but
users have to sign up for premium for that. That's going to cost you.
Yeah,
because it's going to cost me.
Let's talk about entertainment in Judaism. Judaism believes that life is great. Life is big. Life is meant to be enjoyed. The Zohar teaches us that things we could have enjoyed in a permissible manner, and we restricted ourselves, we'll be punished for that. Just like we're punished for engaging in things we're not allowed to, we're punished for not engaging in things that we could have and should have. And I think entertainment and maybe, travel and tours and trips is all part of that.
So what's kosher entertainment?
So very good. That is the focus of what I want to talk about today. So entertainment, of course, must be kosher. Anything inappropriate, immodest, vulgar is not called entertainment. It's
that rule's about rules out about 99% of the comedy clubs, I would say, right?
You got to be careful with the comedy club. That's true. There is there's a surge in kosher comedy. You should know. You brought up a very good example. There are a lot, an ever-growing number of kosher comedy options. Some for mixed crowds, some for women only.
Are they glad kosher or just kosher?
So you have all kinds. Yeah, you have super kosher, medium kosher, but you got to do your best to try and hang out in the cleaner circles, the more dignified circles. Shabbat is a form of entertainment, meaning we need rest. Entertainment is a way to rest, to let our hair loose, to take it easy a little bit. That's what Shabbat is, and to some extent. So entertainment is not a bad thing. But we have to always consider, I have an opportunity to go to this movie, to go to the show, to go to this event. How will this event affect me? How will this activity affect me? Does it encourage dignity? Does it encourage vulgarity? Will it support my relationships with my family, or will it maybe isolate or ruin relationships with others? Will it refresh my mind or numb my mind? Will it promote growth or promote destruction? And the list goes on and on of these things that we all have to take into consideration.
It's really tough because everyone's, wanting the entertainment for the fun and probably going to justify, it's good but you really have to think about it.
You have to think about it, but I think there's plenty of kosher fun out there. There's no shortage of kosher fun. I mean, we live in Israel, okay? We live in the Jewish state. There's plenty of kosher entertainment. Go to a wine festival, go to a beer festival, go see the Dead Sea, go to a show. So many options for kosher shows, for kosher entertainment. There's no end. And certainly there's no lack of opportunities to be entertained in the Jewish state, but wherever you are in the world,
Vacations is also a form of entertainment.
Yeah. Because,
we're going to wait for V for that. We got a lot.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about over there. But, music is a very big form of entertainment. People go to concerts to, relax a little bit and let their hair loose, as they say. Plenty of kosher concerts out there.
Yes, but men have to be careful not to hear ladies singing because that's something that wouldn't be kosher.
Right. Orthodox Judaism frowns upon men listening to women sing. That's true. But again, there's plenty of kosher options, plenty of male singers that sing for a mixed crowd. You can go with your wife to the Shweki concert or whatever big name in Jewish music you might know, and it's probably going to be an option for entertainment. This escape is very good. Escape a little bit from the problems and pressures of life for entertainment. Judaism encourages that. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Humor and laughter, related as well, is very, very important. Jewish culture is famous for storytelling and wit and humor. I mean, we gave the world Jackie Mason. At one point, before I was Orthodox, really, I knew the Jackie Mason show by heart. By heart. I kid you not. So, and there's kosher comedians these days, but humor, eases tension. Humor can be used to strengthen relationships. Humor can be used to make difficult realities that much more bearable. I mean, we're going through war here in Israel lately. I mean, the last 3, 4, 5 years in the whole world in general was difficult with Corona and this thing and that thing. And in Israel in particular with the wars, we need that humor night out, that comedy night. We need that. That's a mitzvah. It becomes a mitzvah because it helps us be well-rounded. It helps us get back energized and recharged to serve God, to serve Hashem, and be the proper Jews we should be. But even humor has its limits. Mockery is bad. Vulgarity, cruelty, humiliation, degrading jokes.
What we do on Purim, we do these Purim skits, right?
Very good.
Which we kind of make fun of people, and sometimes it crosses the line, but sometimes it has to be done in good taste.
Yeah. And
roasting people, roasting your rabbi. Well, that's a good one. Maybe we'll save that for the R's. Roasting Rabbi Ari Enkin. But seriously, it's fun, but sometimes it can cross a line.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Absolutely. Like everything, the eating can cross a line, and every activity can cross a line. Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation.
What about sports?
It's on my list. Games and sports and recreation. That's great. That's kosher. Let out the energy. Make friends. Play together, especially children. Children are encouraged to play from a Jewish perspective to develop their social skills and their physical growth, the exercise. In fact, whereas exercise, as we mentioned, is generally forbidden on Shabbat, children are allowed. Children are allowed to exercise and play games and run around, even though adults cannot, because that's how important it is for children to let out the steam, to let out their energy, and to interact with others. That's how important it is that Shabbat is a bit of an exception. Adults can't, but children can. But once again, not to be excessive, not to be obsessive. Hobbies, very important, very good. Everyone has their own hobbies, especially the younger generation. They have things they like to do. Very good.
Playing games is popular also, like on Shabbat.
Yeah, board games when the computer must be off.
A lot of hours and you just play and enjoy company and have a good time.
Yeah. So board games are very popular on Shabbat. Again, this is great. Use Shabbat both for the spiritual and for the material, for the we call the Gashmius and the Ruchnius, spiritual as well as physical material, and playing games is one of that.
What about going to, let's say, a sporting game, soccer match, a baseball game, sitting there for 3 hours, rah, rah, rah for your team? Is that a waste of time, or is that overboard, or what?
So that's a very good question, and that's very subjective. Some of our kids, our teenagers, they need us to take us to that ball game. So for us, those 3-4 hours is not a waste. It's a mitzvah because our kids need it. We got to take our kids to the ball game. But for us to go alone because we got tickets, yeah, there's a problem over there. A lot of vulgarity in these games, in these soccer games, these basketball games.
Vulgarity.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad language over there, I'm told. I never went to a game yet in Israel. My son is this close to getting me to go. Actually, season just ended, Baruch Hashem. So I'm off the hook for a few months. I've never been to a game in Israel. But I do hear and I do, I'm told what goes on over there. It's not always the best environment. But again, sometimes you got to go to these environments if it's the right thing to do for you, for your kids, for your bonding, for your relationship, for the ease, okay, for the recharge. Movies and television, you got to be even more careful. Unfortunately, there's more out there in the movies that's inappropriate than that is appropriate. So movies and televisions, most Orthodox Jews don't have a television in their home, certainly not in Israel, because there's a lot of trash on television. We don't need that in our homes. We've got enough distractions in life that we don't need it coming, on our walls.
But we have internet, so you can get all the same garbage on the internet.
It's important to mention that our internet should have filters. The home should have a filter for adults and children. There should be all kinds of filters. It's funny, I have a filter so strong in my house that when I wanted to do some research on circumcision and I had to look up certain things about the penis, it wouldn't let me get to the site because it was on a barrier on the, you have these protective barriers so the wrong thing doesn't come through. But I'm talking about circumcision and different issues on the male anatomy. I couldn't get it on my machine. I had to go somewhere else for that research. The medical aspects of circumcision. I was looking at medical aspects of circumcision. So you have to use that P word, you're looking up on Google. So anyways, you have to have a filter, and a good filter is sometimes a good thing as well. Digital culture, the internet, television, movies, you got to be very careful. Documentaries are usually good and entertaining and educational. So also something
National Geographic. Do you like that?
I thought it was kind of boring. Yeah.
I find it interesting. I don't know. Whenever it's at a hotel or something, you gotta find like a clean channel. So it's interesting finding these different animals interacting. Yeah. My wife's like, "What in the world are you looking at?" I find it interesting.
Yeah. But when I was a kid, someone bought me a subscription to National Geographic.
For the bathroom, right? Isn't that classic?
I never opened it.
You sit on the toilet and you read the National Geographic.
It sounds good, but I never opened it. For years and years. I had a monthly subscription to National Geographic. Never opened a copy. So anyways, entertainment is important within reason, okay? And also has to be kosher. Don't be excessive in anything. And maybe entertain yourselves with your family. Because once again, that's a great bonding opportunity. You mentioned Shabbat. It could be not on Shabbat, but try and do leisure and entertainment and travel with the family.
I love playing Simon Says with the kids and the grandkids.
Very nice. It's a great activity. Great activity. So there you go, folks. Entertainment in Judaism is kosher when done in the right way.
Like everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this most recent episode, The Ease. Please join us again next week for the F's. To be decided exactly which topics, but something good, we promise.
And take a snack, enjoy, watch this. Definitely don't watch this on an empty stomach. Enjoy.
Till next time.